Welcome to the Family Law Frontline.
Welcome back to the Family Law Frontline with Fedor Kozlov. Fedor is the founding partner and the chief litigator of the Law Office of Fedor Kozlov, PC. With over a decade of experience in Illinois family law, he handles high-stakes cases involving custody, property division, domestic violence, and complex divorces. I'm Leann Lyon, and today we are talking about supervised visitation in Illinois and when courts decide to restrict parenting time. Hello, Fedor.
Hello, Leann.
When supervised visitation becomes part of a custody case, what kinds of concerns usually lead the court to consider restricting parenting time?
Usually, two concerns. Domestic violence is very popular. As far as the supervised visitations, domestic violence has to allege some kind of violence or potential abuse towards the child. Usually, DCFS is involved. And if proven, the best way to continue seeing your child while the case is pending is to go with the supervised visitations. And second one is if a father or mother, if a parent haven't didn't have a chance to see a child for a while, can be voluntarily or involuntarily. If at the end they going to see the child, usually it starts with some kind of supervised visitation. So the first example was more supervised for the purposes of the safety of the child when we talk about the orders of protection. The other one is more not so much for the safety of the child, but to see how the relationship will occur because the parent didn't see the child for a while.
So, under Illinois law, what standard does a judge apply before ordering supervised visitation?
Well, there's really no standard. Uh, the standard, I should not say that. So I take it back. The standard is everything we do has to be done in the best interest of the child. There are multiple statutes involved and multiple factors involved. But the reason that I said that really no standard involved at the beginning, because again, we have to look at the background, what led us to the supervised visitation. Is it a precaution? Because let's say a child has some kind of special needs and the father is really not trained in that area and maybe not be capable to handle a child like that. Is there a child that has specific illness or allergies and things of that nature? Or is there domestic violence that occurred? If there's a repeated domestic violence, if the father was found to be, abusing alcohol and drugs, or if there was a big gap in communication between the father or the mother to that extent and the child. So the standard, what would be in the best interest of the child? We all want to be cautious about mind of the child, the well-being of a child, things like that. Another huge one is that comes up very often with all these immigration issues going these days, is that if father or mother don't have legal documents in the United States, or illegal immigrants, or their visa expired and the other side does have a visa, it's always a caution that another parent might take the child and leave jurisdiction or leave the country. So in that case, supervised visitation principles are invoked, and sometimes the parties have to give up their passport and child's passport for the period of supervised visitations.
So, what types of supervision arrangements are typically used in these cases?
Sure. So when we say supervised, by the way, visitations, the word supervision is used many many legal areas, uh, from traffic ticket to custody battle. Supervised is usually it has to be supervised by the court, but the court, the judge himself or herself, would not go and supervise anybody, so they would use helpers, and those helpers are either GLs or guardian ad litem. But most of the time, they would not go themselves either. to supervise the child. So there are two ways again to approach it. You can go with the family member that you trust, so it can be a grandmother, a grandfather, a friend, that even outside of the family, somebody that both parties agree upon and they trust. And that supervised visitation is really what it is. You, you bring the child to the park, the parent spends time with the child, the other person stays away and just observe for the purposes of safety or other concerns in case the child doesn't want to spend the time anymore with the parents, so the child can go into someone's car and go home. Or we have multiple facilities around Illinois where you can bring the child. You have to pay a fee for that, and where you will be given a room, because sometimes supervised visitations usually not allowed to take place in another parent's home. So in other words, if a father has a supervised visitation with his son, let's say for 3 or 4 hours, it usually has to be a public place. You cannot take the child to your home most of the time. And it's supervised because the other person has to be in that home. So you have to do it outside. Uh, if you do it outside during the winter time, it might be a little bit difficult. So that's why we have special locations, specific locations that could be recommended by the court, where you bring your child. There are toys there, depending on the age of the child, or their computers, or their VRs, whatever it is, and the father spends time there with the child. Another purpose for that is to see how well a father or mother can handle the child during this visitation, because it's a lot of work to spend a particular amount of time with a specific child, depending on the needs of the child. Whether you take the child to a cinema, you want to have some kind of ice cream, or you want to go to a zoo, still you have to be able to handle the child, and sometimes what that supervised visitations are for.
Can you walk us through a case where supervised visitation was ordered and explain what facts led the court to that decision?
I have lots and lots of cases with supervised visitations. um, it's usually in my practice something that comes from the order of protection. So the divorce or parentage proceedings don't have to start with a petition of dissolution of marriage or petition for parentage. A lot of times it starts with a fight. So there's a fight, somebody calls the police, there's an order of protection, children were involved, or they were in the same household. Police calls immediately Department of Child and Family Services. The other parent has to move out from the house, and for dependency of the order of protection, usually this party that stays in the house, whether renting or own, have exclusive possession of the house. In my practice, it's usually mothers who would stay in the house, and the children would stay in the house as well. The reason they do that is for the benefit of the child, because the child has to go to school, daycare, wherever the child goes, and usually it's assigned by the residents. So children would stay in the house, and mom would stay in the house. Now there's an order of protection. Orders of protection, you can have an order of protection for several years against the person, but then if you have children involved, even with the order of protection, you can always petition the court to remove the children for you to be able to see them. But depending on how serious the act was that led to the to file order of protection, it depends. If you're going to get the supervised visitation for a limited time, no limited time, overnights, and stuff like that. In my experience, with the orders of protection that go for a considerable period of time, you can have supervised visitation for a limited period of time with not no overnights. The most recent case that I had, it was resolved finally. But the case was where the father just obtained the FOIA card and displayed his guns for to show the guns to his daughters. So the daughters got scared. They interpreted it differently, and they complained to the mother, and the mother obtained the order of protection. Guns, of course, were taken away from the father, and he had to have supervised visitation for several months.
Hmm. So, what usually needs to happen before a parent can request a transition from supervised to unsupervised parenting time?
You have to prove that you're a parent. It's sometimes this cases is not, it's about the law, of course, and again, it has to be done in the best interest of the child. But you have to prove that you're a parent for this child. So you have to prove that you can take care of the child, that you're a parent. That you have to know, uh, you have to participate in the child's life. And remember, to prove that you're a parent, you have to go beyond the supervised visitations, because nothing stops you from attending an event at school, even if it's not your time. You can still stay in the back of the uh, hall and watch your child perform. Nothing stops you from going to your child's soccer game or baseball game. Nothing stops you from obtaining, your child's records from school or doctor's records, or remember that this is your child's birthday and send them a present, or do something for your father's or mother's day, things like that. So it's not just supervised visitation. It's not that, I have supervised visitations. I had 3 hours from 12 to 3. I've done everything I could. Goodbye. I've done it. So courts and GALs and child reps look at what did you do beyond that. One of the things, by the way, is how do you accommodate your work schedule and your life around the needs of your child? Because I get it, people work all the time, but what did you do so you can accommodate yourself for the benefit of your child, even though it's not a supervised visitation? Um, Courts also we talk a lot about that the child support, the money that you pay for the child, has nothing to do with um, the time you spent. And I know I'm kind of getting outside of the question, but it's very, very important, because sometimes in the father's mind that I'm paying child support, so I have the right to see the child. Well, you're not buying your child's time. You provided for your child. It's not like you getting the child, you're not renting the child for a specific period of time. This is a ridiculous argument that I hear all the time, but you have to provide for the child. And even though and moms would say also, he's not paying child support, so I'm not going to give him the child. Also, ridiculous argument in my mind. But if you show that you're taking care of your child by paying for extracurricular lesson experiences, for braces, for glasses, for camps, summer camps, and pay child support, you proven to be a parent for the child who loves and cares for the child.
Beautiful. Have you seen situations where supervision was requested, but the court declined? And what made the difference?
Well, there can be two declines by the court. There can be a good decline and a bad decline. So the bad decline is when the court says that situation is so severe. And I actually had a case when the mother was declined even supervised visitations. So a child was taken away from her for a number of reasons, and the child was given to the father. And she asked for the supervised visitations, and the court said that she's not ready. But that involved, she didn't have a stable residence, there was drugs and alcohol involved, and she was given permission to see the child via Zoom. Uh, the good for one of the parties decline of a supervised visitation would be when the supervised visitation is not warranted. So it could be different instances. Um, I'll tell you this: the, for the guideline for courts is that once you have you're an adult, once you have a child, you responsible for this child. What I hear from mothers a lot, that instead of cooking a meal for my child, he purchased him McDonald's, or the child came back with the rash on his hand, or there was a bruise or something like that, and she's asking for a supervised visitation, those supervised visitation will be declined because the courts say that it's the time that the child spends with the father or the mother, and if he decides to give the child a burger instead of giving him some kind of more healthier food, that is his choice. And if he just played soccer with him and there's a bruise on his arm, well, so these are children. It happens. We're not growing up in a vacuum after all. So, but those are things that the supervised visitations will be declined. So it's not that I'm giving you the child and do exactly what I tell you. This is the time for the other parent to spend with the child.
So, are there any missteps during supervised visitation that can make it harder for a parent to regain just regular parenting time?
What? So the main missteps are be on time and bring the child back on time. uh, Getting on time is very important for your child because that child is waiting for you, and he's been told or she's been told that you will arrive at 12 o'clock. So be there 15 minutes before 12. This is very important for the child because if a child comes there, he or she will be confused if the other parent is not there. That's number one. Number two, bring the child on time because the child has a routine and the child has to go back home, prepare for school or have dinner or something like that. So be respectful first towards the child and appreciate that you have this time with the child. Take it also shows that you care for the child, and the arguments again talking about work. I had too much. I was overwhelmed at work, so I couldn't arrive on time. Is not going well in court. Or then if you're too busy, then why do you need to see your child on this time? And then bring the child on time during the parenting time. You have to entertain the child. This is your job. uh, y- there was a reason why the supervised visitation was ordered. Whether or not the parent agrees with that, that's the order, and you have to obey the order. You have to follow the order. The times and times I've seen when people miss their supervised visitation because they simply disagree with the court order and they protest to the judge. It's a very bad idea to do. And then during the visitation, never ever talk to your child about proceedings in court. Also, it happens over and over and over. The parent says, well, your mom doesn't want us to be happy. Your mom doesn't want me to see you as much, and she filed for divorce. Your mom is probably with her boyfriend. That's why I have to spend this time with you. This is ridiculous. And again, like we discussed before, the child will talk to the mom or child rep, and he or she will tell that this has been told. And it's a good thing if a child actually tells like his peace of mind to somebody else, because a lot of children listen and they kind of lock themselves in and never open up. And this is something that you can severely damage your child and also might lose your supervised visitation.
So, as we wrap up today's episode, if there's someone currently dealing with supervised visitation, how should they approach the process so that they're working towards restoring a more normal schedule?
Just follow the steps of the supervised visitations. Usually, supervised visitation, it's not just, they are very, very specific. So there's a court, there should be a court order that tells you about the supervised visitation. And the court order will tell when it starts, when it ends. The court order will also say the days. The court order might also say when it should stop and it has to be a successful completion, things of that nature. All you have to do is to show up for your supervised visitation. I get it. This is inconvenience. Sometimes it's much better to just to take the child, bring the child home. But if you keep thinking about that, this is what you're working towards, and maybe you need to get the trust of your child back as well during the supervised visitation. After all, there's a reason why there is a supervised visitation. You might not agree with that, but there are some people who disagree with you as well. So there is always two sides of the same story. Let's say if you are in a situation with a supervised visitation, if you really love your child, just follow the court order.
Well, that is it for today's episode of the Family Law Frontline. If you are dealing with supervised visitation or parenting time restrictions, visit lawyer-il.com to connect with Fedor Kozlov and his team. Thank you for listening, and remember to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. Thank you, Fedor.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.